Here for the review a little bit. Good students volunteer, man. So bad students don't. So. Everybody chewing gums. Who taught you chewing gums in class? That's terrible.
My breath was terrible from the coffee.
Oh yeah. Okay. So let me do a review, fellas.
Okay. Last week we read in Napoleon Comes to Power. And
You like this guy or not? So.
Yeah.
Okay. He used to be one of my heroes.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, when I don't know the Lord, that's, I want to be a general.
You did?
Yeah.
I like Kayla just joined.
Oh, great.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
We're doing a review, chapter 29.
You feel better, Gila?
Oh, she's sick?
Yes, she's a little bit sickly.
A little bit.
Okay, we'll pray for you. Yeah, Lord Jesus, we do pray for Kila right now. We ask your name, your blood will heal her, Lord, by the power of your name. We pray for John's will, those sick ones. We ask for just be healed in Jesus' name. Quick healing, total healing in Jesus' name. Amen. Bless the Lord. Amen. Okay, 29 chapter, first part, Rise in Bonaparte. Bonaparte on page 275 in my version of the book. So,
Yeah.
okay. Go ahead, let me continue.
So, I can't remember where. I think it was talking about Robespierre and the National Convention.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Robespierre, right?
Robespierre, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about. I don't know how to pronounce the word. It starts with
Which one? Oligarchy.
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 Yeah.
What does that mean, oligarchy?
I think it's a country where only some of the citizens can rule.
Mm-hmm. Some powerful ones, right? So,
Which-
yeah.
What does that mean? Citizens ruling.
It's like different kind of government. You have a dictatorship, is one person
Yeah.
in charge, make decisions on all things most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You do have council. Nobody can rule a nation without help. So
Right.
then a bunch of people together as a committee on a council together, they will make decisions. Right? They might have equal voting rights or decision right to certain things. Sometimes look at the organization have a head. Basically, the head hold the head or the decision maker making decisions go through a process, right? So one person play a major role. That's totally dictatorship or king. We're not gonna do that, right? So dictator is a bad ruler. We call dictator or tyrant. But if a good king, what do you say? It's benevolent king like David. In our case, God is sole ruler, right? So in a sense, but he does share his rulership, but he's not yielding his headship to others, right? So there's only one king. You can't have many kings sitting on the throne. So that's one thing. So then you have democracy. Democracy is not necessarily the people. They do have representative, like American have. The representative of the people's wills. They then have these people selected, right? Then they have we call it autocracy or whatever. Cracy. It's basically oligarchy, different ways of oligarchy. Oligarchy, by virtue, you can buy power, by richness, by your knowledge, by different qualifications applied, different systems, different times, different nations. They how do people choose to do this, am I right? So making sense to you? So that there are others aristocracy, because before this is in French is a kingship. King rules also with partner with a aristocracy, am I right? Aristocracy is a privileged class to rule the nation. So the different, I might mess it up to different. Is there democracy? No, you might know a little bit, am I right? different government set up. What Aristotle said, oh, what Plato said. Who said that? Plato, I believe so.
Yeah, I think so.
Dictatorship, right? Dictatorship, aristocracy, democracy. What the other one?
Was it not oligarchy?
Oligarchy, yeah, oligarchy.
That's
So
it, yeah,
four
that's one.
kinds, yeah. So, but in the way how to decide even the will of the people, they have different way to do it, right? So how there are different format of a democracy. Just like a different kingship implied differently. The European kingship would be different from Indian kingship, which is learn Indian can pretty bad, right? They're young man really did a lot of bad things. Happen in China as well, the decision can be good or bad, the shifting gears sometimes, in biblical times, there are good kings, there are bad kings, right? Different ones as well. For example, the outstanding example is the 3 kings in a row, actually 4, from King Saul to King David to, what's David's son names? What is his name? Rehoboam, Rehoboam, the son, Solomon's son, Rehoboam, right? David's son is Solomon, then David's Rehoboam. So there's 3 generations in a row, so they all acted differently as kings, right? So they all have their strength and their failures. Sometimes God said that's a bad one in overall assessment, right? So there's some good ones. Solomon and David would be good, and Solomon's son Rehoboam in God's side would be bad rulers. Making sense to you? So, but they inherited same system in government, if you will. So, yeah. Anyway, is that making sense to you? Okay, yeah. Those interesting questions to ask because learn history. There are different angles to engage history. Like what we're doing is basically take a snapshot, take a story, all the history flows. I said, try to learn from that time what kind of eminent figures doing. It's not really the best way to learn history. History actually is more than just different character, different stories, right? So they have a whole backdrop. It's like an ocean, right? You can't really say oceans like rivers, not like a river. Have a lot of flow, a lot of seasons. So learn history. You eventually will brush it out to try to learn the background of economics, social construct, cultural construct, so then with it, the morphing or transformation of each one in different seasons. We also learned one in the recent lessons talking about the inventions of certain people. Cotton gin, yeah. Changed the whole economy, right? So one person's invention changed everything. Seems a small thing, but the invention changed the whole, many people's lives being changed, right? Nation economy being changed, trade getting changed. Now, so the designer of this history book is try to say, okay, I wanted to talk about this person's life, but really want my students, if you will, which I would do, say like, okay, you remember that instance, that person, but get interested in that time, right? So how this actually changed everything. We can think about it, but you think about a person in that time, his invention caused the slavery flourish in the South, right? So the slavery flourished in the South, leading to divisions about whether slavery is justifiable in this nation. The North and the South had different opinion about it. Becoming so contentious that in Lincoln time, people said, we can't reconcile anymore. So the South began to separate from the North, right? Called the Confederacy. That's happened to President Abraham Lincoln time. I'm trying to tell you to open your mind to think about things in a more cohesive or connected way, So then you watch the movie called recently, wonderful movie called Abraham Lincoln, right? So, Abraham Lincoln, right? So the movie, so he was arguing, trying to negotiate with different things, So then you look at it, oh, okay, how this worked out, and what is really containing for as a president, you understand the history of that person. Now you can read in then zoom in. What about his time? What about his government? What about the personnel he's associated with? No, you're free to use my office, yeah, if you want to. Yeah, quiet. Yeah, okay. So my point is to try to broaden your perspective or connect the dots for you. If you're interested in history, you're interested in any subject, the power association is a very great one, so we need to concentrate in learning some subject. You need to concentrate, go in depth, go into detail to be very good at a subject. And sometimes you just said, okay, I need to broaden out my horizon. I need to know more, right? So let's see, Elijah, how you understand Abraham Lincoln? If you can't understand Abraham Lincoln without the understanding his historical background, right? So slavery was a big reason he was elected, and he did a lot in eradicating slavery in this nation. So is that all he did? But most time we remember him as what? As a Civil War president, right? As when dealing with the slavery. Actually, there's more to Abraham Lincoln's life than merely those achievements, right? So it happened, history put into place, he addresses the crises or major issues of the day. But Abraham has, have different aspects, different other achievements, right? How he is prepared for that. Now then you begin to know, okay, how is the other person prepared for his time? How he handled the major situations that was thrust in his decision-making process and leadership process. So what that means, like Washington was just read Washington, right? So only 20 years old, he volunteered to be a scout. Knowing that he's gonna die. He literally almost died, right? So remember that? Carry a driftwood in the cold winter. A young man always a little bit ambitious. Washington is very ambitious when he's a young man. It's not necessarily bad ambitious, just wanted to do best in things we do. A very courageous young man. Washington is one of the model for courage, moral courage as well as real courage, facing crisis, he's not backing down. Have you heard Wanley Forge? Anything about it? Wanley Forge?
What?
The story of Wanley Forge? Anybody heard about? Okay, you're not good American students. Wanley Forge. Just remember, do a reading on Wanley Forge with Washington's story behind. That's Wikipedia. You can write that down as a homework for you.
What are you saying? Rally?
Wanley. Valley. Wanley, am I right? Yeah.
Valley what?
Wanley Forge. Forge is like
Valley Forge?
Yeah, Forge. You'll be intrigued by that thing. Wanley Forge is a time some major character in American history, more than the war, was a turning point for revolution, the Revolutionary War, but also a time George Washington became a true leader of this nation. As the young people associated with him, which is 20-some years old, or mostly, he was 30, something like that. Later on, become a major character of this nation, the founding, So he has a secretary, I think, called, have you heard of Hamilton? Huh?
Yeah,
Hamilton. So he was there, young man, 18, 20 years old. I'm not sure. Not too old. And the first judge was there. The first supreme judge is also acting his honor officer. Do you guys know his name?
Who?
I don't know. You don't know his name?
What officer?
The first judge, the supreme judge, the judge, A lot of other people basically went through that war with him because Washington was so courageous and so holding things together. And they later on become royal followers of him, So it's the leadership wins the young people's heart, lifelong fellowship or lifelong decisions. I think Madison was there. Madison, the the fourth president, is the father of the Constitution. Madison's the one actually organized to write and be a secretary, I think so, of the Constitution. You know, the Philadelphia, they have this convention, right, to discuss Constitution. So he was about 20 some years old as well, less than 30.
Oh.
Yeah, they were studiers, were knowledgeable about things. All those young people later on become major players of American founding, you know. Also, they're all good at law. We're familiar with the Constitution. They write the law. 20-some years old. Benji, can you do that? A lot of work, right? So I mean, Hamilton become a secretary of Treasury.
Right.
So a nation had nothing with treasury. He started, you know, so manage all the treasury. A
At
lot of
20 years
talents. Yeah, 20, 30 years old, you know. And how they learn it. My point is how they learn it.
Yeah.
They must somewhere to learn it, right? So obviously, it's not in the school, right? So real life situations, you know. So managing real things. So life, you learn manage real things. Most important, you learn a lot just by by doing real things. So it's not head knowledge anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move on. So Napoleon is the same thing, you know. He was started with a very small soldier, become a captain. The first part, I think he was talking about appointed by Robespierre to lead certain thing. Robespierre disappeared from the political scene. There's a council came to be oligarch. What do you call this council? National Convention, right? So have many people, 5 people, right? So I'm sorry, council of 500. Sorry, but the directory have 5 people, I think, right? So okay. So he was appointed. They were afraid of him. They sent him to conquer Great Britain, and Napoleon knew it better. So he said, "Let's attack Egypt." Right? So he went to Egypt. Then he lost the battle. Then still came back. Said, "Hey, I won a good battle actually."
Yeah.
Right? He lost his whole army there. You know,
Yeah.
so we're a trickery person. So he become okay. Let's read on this. Of course, one of the council was Napoleon himself. He became a consul, right? He replaced the old consul. And let's read this portion. Said, with armed soldiers behind him, waving their bayonets, Napoleon marched in the Council of Asians. He led a coup, announced that the directory was too weak to protect Rennes. Seeing all the bayonets, the Council of Asian agreed quickly to remove the directory and replace with the 3 consuls. Napoleon was one of them, right? So then not before long, he becomes the only one. So that's the next one we're going to read on. Okay, Benji, why don't you read on Emperor Napoleon?
Sure. Okay. Napoleon, the consul of France.
The Emperor Napoleon, the next part.
This one?
Yeah, that's
Second
that's
part.
what he's reading.
This one.
Oh, the Emperor. Oh, I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
no.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Napoleon,
Okay, so, yeah, go ahead.
okay, of France. Now ruled in Paris, the people of France still had the right to vote.
Mhm.
But their votes didn't really matter. Napoleon and his council of state had all of the power. Napoleon set out to rewrite the ancient confusing laws of France so that France would be an orderly and law-abiding place. This new law code, the Napoleonic Code, ordered each person to be treated equally by the law.
Can you believe that? That's a very big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I read that. It's a classical book, you know? It's literally a book, a whole thick book. So I used to own one. Translate it. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The new law code, if an employee had a disagreement with his boss, the boss would always win. And women had no rights at all. Women should stick to knitting, Napoleon observed.
What?
What?
Okay, you
Very
with that? You
boring.
with that? Okay, great.
I don't even know how to knit.
Yeah, yeah. Don't chew gums. You should knit it. Right? Sticking. That's a terrible idea. Go ahead.
Napoleon then set about
Maybe somebody need to cook the dinner for us, man. So
Wait, what?
I'm joking. So. Go ahead.
about winning the loyalty of the Catholic Church. He told the Pope that Catholics could worship as they pleased in France, and that France would even pay Catholic priests appointed by the Church, as long as they swore loyalty to Napoleon. The Pope agreed. He also promised to add new question and answer to the official church teaching, or catechism.
Catechism. Catechism.
Catholicism.
Catechism.
No, that's
Catholicism.
No, it's a different.
Cat.
You need to read the book.
Oh, I thought it was
Yeah.
Catholicism.
Yeah, Catholicism. Yeah, it's also
What is
a
it?
book, big book.
Catechism.
It's also a big book, like this thick.
Whoa.
Yeah, English now.
Question: What should one think of those who fail to honor the emperor and do their duty to him? Answer: they are resisting the order established by God Himself, and are earning themselves eternal
Demise.
No.
Damnation.
Damnation.
Yeah.
Mm.
Napoleon did not intend for anyone to resist his order. 3 years after becoming consul, Napoleon told his council to make him consul for life.
This guy is ambitious, right? So, it's like he never rested.
Yeah,
This guy is like something drive him crazy, always on the move.
yeah. He
Go ahead.
wrote a constitution that would govern France, but this constitution wasn't like the English or American constitutions.
No query. But this time, is American have a constitution or not?
It used to, or does it still?
It does. I think it doesn't.
Evidently, American. This happened after American Revolution, right? So the constitution already there. So yeah. Go ahead.
The new French constitution said that Napoleon could make any laws he wanted, declare wars himself, and decide on France's policies alone.
Policies.
Policies.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Napoleon
I
ordered.
think is the young lady still there?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Okay, Kayla, you got a partner in reading, you know, have some stumbling, so.
Hey, I stumbled too.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
but I tell you the truth, after 2 years, you guys going to be so good with reading. It's going to impress me very much. It's take matter time. So, yeah, go ahead.
Napoleon ordered the people to vote on this constitution. Then he declared that the constitution had passed. 3 million votes to 2,000.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
3 million.
Yeah.
Napoleon made up those numbers himself.
That's the most laughable, right? So,
Right.
but the people allow him to do it. Why? Nobody challenged him. Why? There's many reasons, right? Thinking about it. So,
Yeah. Napoleon was ready to expand his kingdom. Over
for example, if I tell you, this lunch, we're gonna eat plain rice, nothing else. Okay? Just
Okay.
rice, plain rice. What are you guys gonna think about it? Can we try this? Can we do this? You know, so I don't like rice.
Got some soy sauce?
Yeah, yeah. So you don't raise a disagreement. Why? Either you're a good person and really like rice, right? So,
You get what you
I
get
love
where you can get it.
Yeah.
Butter and salt on the rice.
Oh,
Sprinkle a little bit of rice and I can eat it.
oh, I'm such a terrible
Butter's-
person. Everybody
butter's
freed
so
me,
bad.
right? So yeah, so that's important in case everybody freed him.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead. Mhm.
But first, he needed money. So in 1803, he offered all of France's land in North America to the United States.
Ah, can you believe that? That's a treaty, okay?
Yeah.
The Louisiana Treaty or something. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No worries. This Louisiana territory was an enormous piece of land that
That's a
stretched from the
huge.
French colony of.
Let's look at it. How large it is. Go ahead, read.
Okay. New Orleans up through the Midwest, through land where Arkansas, Missouri, Arkansas.
Arkansas. You don't even know American states?
Oh my gosh. Arkansas.
You guys remember.
Yeah, we kind of-
Kansas, Nebraska, and other states now lie all the way up in Canada.
That's a
Except for-
huge land, right?
All of that
Broad
land?
stretch. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. The heartland of America. You know? Man, that's terrible. Sorry. Go ahead.
Except for New Orleans.
Yeah.
No French settlers lived in this land. Napoleon knew that he wouldn't be able to start colonies and conquer Europe at the same time. So he sold the whole piece to the United States for $15 million. This Louisiana purchase doubled the size of the United States in one day.
Mm-hmm. I
Then
think who did this purchase? I forgot his name. President. I forgot.
Was it Roosevelt, right?
No, Roosevelt is much later. So
Oh, yeah, you're right.
yeah.
Then Napoleon decided that he should have the title of emperor, with the right to pass the title on to any heir he chose. So he planned himself a huge coronation ceremony. He sat on a golden throne in the Cathedral of Notre Dame.
Oh, you're pretty impressed with that one. No, you must been there before, right?
Yep.
Oh, spurred on me.
Yeah.
Have you read the novel?
The novel? I don't think so.
There is a movie and novel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about Victor Hugo. Last Miserable. His dad's favorite
Oh,
novel.
really?
So yeah.
Cool.
Go ahead.
Holding a sword, which he claimed had belonged to Charles Magny.
Yeah.
Charlemagne.
Charles Magny.
That's his
Magny.
name. Charles Magny.
The Magny. Yeah, you read like lady's name. It's not lady. It's emperor.
Charles Magny.
Yeah.
I'm gonna name my next beta for
Yeah.
stuff.
The first Holy Roman Emperor. Then he took a golden crown of laurel leaves, put it on his own head, and proclaimed himself emperor.
What?
Wow.
Man. He's did it himself, huh? That's terrible.
Now the Emperor Napoleon was ready to conquer an empire for himself. He planned to start with France's old enemy, Britain. France arrested all British citizens in France. The British seized all French ships in British waters. British ships and prowled the seas, shooting at each other. Meanwhile, Napoleon started to build hundreds of boats on which he could load 150,000 soldiers who would row across the channel and invade England. They weren't very good boats. Napoleon was fairly sure that at least 20,000 men would drown on the way over.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
That's when I sent the army out and said, you guys are gonna die.
Yeah. But I would lose that many in a battle anyway, he explained. And went on building.
Yeah. Okay, let's somebody else read this next portion. So, only two of you can read, or you can read.
Sure, I'll read it
yeah.
this time.
Oh,
Since there's only a little bit
Ah,
left.
it's
Right.
so precious. Thank you.
Napoleon was fairly sure.
Yeah.
Napoleon was fairly sure that at least 20,000 men would drown on the way over. But I would lose that many in battle anyway, he explained, and went on building. The English saw the boat building and prepared to fight against Boney's invasion. Bonnie's or Boney?
I have no idea.
It's kinda
Never
like
heard of that.
Bonnie's more
All over England, men were pressed or drafted into the navy and taught to be sailors on British warships that would fight against Napoleon. British soldiers readied themselves to fight off the French invaders. Even English farmers were ready to grab their pitchforks and fight against the French.
Oh, yeah.
When the time came for invasion, Napoleon ordered his admiral to sail the French warships out into the English Channel and fight against the English fleet. Once the channel was cleared,
Of English warships.
I lost my spot. Of English warships, the flat, slow barges full of soldiers could now row safely across. The commander of the English fleet was Admiral Horatio Nelson.
Horatio. Called Horatio. Horatio. Horiato. I don't know. That's sounds like a Japanese name. Right?
I know.
Hariyato?
Horatio. Horatio. Yeah. Nielsen.
Well, I should take him off.
Yeah, just with our other current projects and everything that we feel like we won't.
Okay, go ahead.
He's taking notes.
Okay. The same animal.
Sorry, are you needing it sooner than that?
Oh, okay. The same admiral who had beaten Napoleon once before in the Battle of Nile. He sailed his own ships down to meet the French, with his flagship, the Victory,
Okay,
in the
gotcha.
lead.
We can plan to try and have it ready for you.
But you can't take
Get in
notes
touch
off.
with you. And if it's something we can do, we'll let you know as soon as we know. I can let you know before that
So-
time. And then, yeah. So by the end of this week, I'll be able to know if I can do
Let me finish for you. Oh, so
Is that all right?
so delayed.
Sorry.
No.
I just don't know how to read and take
Joking.
notes simultaneously.
You can't. Nobody can. You can do one thing at the same time. Yeah, good.
Format is an MP4 file, so that would be our.
The signal flags on the Victory spelled out, England expects that every man will do his duty.
What does signal flag means?
It's like a colored flag doing a certain signal,
It should be
right?
the video file.
It's like a flag
Yeah.
that says something.
Think about a lot of
It's
ships
like a signal.
bonded together like a fleet, many ships. And right, they need a leading ship to tell them what to do, right? So
That'll be the goal.
normally they
That's
can't
the
shout,
only we can do
and
is
they
that
use the
we
flag to
really
do it. Okay.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
but
signaling certain
this
things.
says something. Like this is a flag that had words on it. I think that's different from like a flag that like moves.
Yeah,
Yeah, it says the
yeah.
signal flag on the
Like remember the
Yeah.
Hobbit where the orc
Yeah.
had that weird
Yeah.
thingy on the hill. And I'm like,
Okay.
Um,
The battle begins off.
the battle
coast.
began off the coast of Spain.
But I won't leave you hanging.
Nelson's ship outsailed and outfought the French, but not a single English ship sank. But 22 of Napoleon's ships had been captured and the rest fled.
Thank you.
The boats with soldiers in them never even launched.
So it's
Sad.
totally failure, huh?
Right, Napoleon.
Yeah.
Admiral Nelson had saved England from a new emperor. But during the battle, he was hit by a musket ball and he stood on the deck. As he stood on the deck of his ship, Nelson died a few hours later. The French admiral died too. When he saw how badly he had been defeated, he killed himself. The sea battle, the Battle of Trafalgar, put limits on the new emperor's power, and he would never take England. But over the next 10 years, Napoleon would do the best to spread his power across the rest of Europe.
That's bad reading. Go in your tongue. Blah 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 blah. Okay. Read on. We still have 20 minutes left. We're gonna read on the next chapter. We'll finish that. It's 30 now.
Oh, it only has one part.
So you're going to then be tested.
Oh,
Next week you're gonna prepare. Next Monday you're gonna be tested.
So
From
review is
26 chapter to 30
Review
chapter.
is next week.
Okay.
We're not doing a test. We're doing.
We're
a
not
test.
doing a test next week. We're doing the test the week after that.
Yeah. Right.
We're going to review the things Oh, that's a good point. Should we give you 2 weeks to review or 1 week to review?
It's up to you.
It's up to me. Okay, I said 1 week.
Okay.
5 chapters, not too much.
Yeah.
So, how about that, Emma? We'll do a simple test. Okay. So, now your dad suggests to me not testing too much information, but think of what you learn something, some major information you need to remember, right? So
Yeah.
not testing overtly, just out there's information,
Is there
right?
a
So
certain way that
Uh-huh.
would be a good way to review? Something?
Yeah, but I think what you need to review is do the outline. Normally, you only remember the things going on in the story. This book is difficult because it don't give you a head, So, but some information are major, like when the story happened, some events happened, the time, the place, some names, major events, So, the bad of this storybook is because it's more concentrated on people's actions,
Yeah.
people's what they doing. We lost. We think, it's only about that. Actually, the major reason for this story to try to do that is try to tell you, this person did this thing in this time, and this time is major in history, right? It's like a landmark of that history, right? So what I'm thinking is not really which person do. Basically, it's only an introduction for the real history. So you might want to remember this time, this happened, right? So, yeah. The other thing about this book is it's too simple. It's also too standard. It don't give a lot of context how history really played out, right? So, but in order for you to branch it out to learn more solid history, you got to have some solid information to go with it. So, for example, when is the Civil War happened? Who is the president in the time of Civil War? Those information is like landmarks information for an American mind, because you need to know American history, right? So now you learn history in other nations involved. You just need to change. Okay, I'm a Japanese guy. I need to know what Japanese happened, right? So you need to change the mindset, So you need to change the set. I don't care about the Japanese. I don't know. Well, then why you learn history? Why learn their history? Really doesn't make sense, right? So like a Chinese person said, to go to American history. I don't care about American history. I don't want to know who Washington is. Well, so why you learn American history? So you understand my point. So you just need to change shoes a little bit. Okay, if I'm a French guy, if I'm a Chinese, if I'm a Japanese, I want someone to know at least a major event in our history. Think along those terms. Then you might be easier for you to say, there's a reason for me to remember these things, So I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm trying to, one of the things you learn history, especially the other nation history, is to give you the opportunity to know their background. More than that, you change your way of thinking, right? So like you live there, right? Like went through history with them there. Affiliate yourself with them there, right? So that's basically one of the power learn history, is to change, to know how people live at that time, what people think at those times. So it's not always easy, but it starts somewhere. Okay, so yeah, okay. Okay, let's move on. Chapter 30 now. Man, we call the Haitian revolt, right? We just have the president assassinated. I found it interesting. We learn something gonna happen. It's like incredible. Sorry, I mean it's all the time. So, am I right? Yeah, I'm not trying to make it up. Am I right? So, Naomi, do you notice that we learn something, suddenly something happened in that nation or something like that? You didn't notice it. I notice all the time.
Emmanuel's saying is that we're learning things in history, and then actually things right now in the news and stuff are happening in places we've been reading about.
And they're not small things, major things. So, incredible. So, like we learn Colombia, people begin to say, let's pull his statue down, so we don't like him, so we're here to try to learn his history, so.
Kind of remember,
Yeah.
like, we were talking about Germany or something,
Yeah?
and Dad had, told us about some ships or aircraft going and bombing that area.
Oh
Or
yeah.
something. And
Yeah.
I remember actually thinking, oh, I thought we were learning something.
Yeah, it's
similar
like
at that time.
things just begin to happen, right?
Yeah.
Use a movie or something that's I know that history, you know. So exactly yesterday I heard it. Then we just studied that, you know.
Yeah.
So now that's a power of association. I mean, either God arranged it or it happens all the time. You just recognize, oh, there's something going on here, you know. So
History is continuing to repeat itself.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just have the major news, the headline about this nation called Haiti, am I right? So have a problem, am I right? So right now it's still going on. And anyway, I want to Esther read on, and let me pick it up. So let's look at first. Look where the map is. The map said Saint what? Domingo.
Yeah, what does that say?
Dominic.
Dominic.
Yeah. During the time of Saint L'Ouverture. I have no idea that's French, evidently. So, okay, this continue with the French, but it's brought it out into its colonization, right? So it's a colonial area. So, okay. Dominic or Haiti used to be called this one, Saint Dominic, am I right? So, yeah. Okay. That's interesting, huh? It's the French colonizations. I mean, French colonized, left all kind of trouble behind us. French. Okay, go ahead.
Far away from Great Britain, a tiny island was about to defy the enormous strength of the Emperor Napoleon. And although it had no ships, no admirals, and few allies, the island of Saint Dominic would win its independence from France. Saint Dominic lay in the north of the Caribbean Sea, above South America and below Florida. French settlers had lived on Saint Dominic for over 100 years.
That's a long time, all right?
Yeah.
So,
They planted fields of sugarcane, squeezed the juice from the stalks, boiled it down into sugar, and shipped it to Europe and to North America.
yeah, that's a major industry there. Yeah. They use a slave labor all the time doing sugar producing, which is a very difficult work, you know. So,
They grew coffee beans and harvested them. More and more coffee and sugar left St. Dominic's ports. The planters grew richer and richer. By the time Napoleon claimed power in France, this French colony was making almost half of the sugar used in the whole world.
yeah, that's a lot of sugar,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And almost half of the coffee.
Ah, that's a lot of coffee as well.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Okay, good luck. So,
The planters and the colony leaders lived like French aristocrats. They dressed in silks and jewels and gave balls and parties. The western settlement, Cap Francis?
Francais. Yeah, that's French. Okay, we don't necessarily know French. Yeah.
Grew to be a city of 25,000,
That's a lot of people in those times, am I right? So,
filled with theaters, huge mansions, and wide streets.
the French.
The French called it the Paris of Antilles.
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 Antilles was the name many people use for the cluster of islands between South and North America.
Mm-hmm.
The planters of Saint Dominic grew so rich that the French courtiers at Versailles started to shake their heads and gossip about how much money was spent.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, slaves labored in the fields of sugar plants. Wow. Saint Dominic had 36,000 white Europeans and 500,000 American slaves.
That's a lot of slaves, am I right there? Yeah.
Surrounded by all these slaves who were working hard and not getting any of the profit, the planters tried very hard to make sure that none of the Africans got any ideas about freedom or
Equality.
Yeah.
Equality. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
French law said that a slave who earned his freedom would become a French citizen and have the rights of any Frenchman. But the laws of St. Dominic said that everyone with African blood, slave or free, had to wear different clothes.
That's
Sit in
crazy,
different
huh?
Yeah. Sit in different parts of churches and other buildings, and be inside by 9 o'clock every night.
So what that the kind of separation? There's another term called what? Segregation. Okay, the word called segregation. Okay, in the night, 9 o'clock had to get it back. Another term in English called curfew. Okay, had to provide curfew. Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
No one of African blood could become a goldsmith or a jeweler or any army officer or a doctor.
That's called a discrimination, right? So literally don't give them good career or rich career to go. So,
Slaves had no rights at all. They worked every day, often chained together, dying of weariness and illness, while more slaves arrived from Africa to replace them.
So is that irony or not? French is on the front of human rights these days. I'm just telling you. So, they start all the abuse of people's labor, right? So literally grab them from Africa against their will and abuse them for hundreds of years, at least. And then these days, what they said, we are the front of civilization to human freedom. So it's what an irony. Sorry, you're African, not doing right. Sorry. Go ahead. It does mean they do right. Okay, I'm not saying that at all. So a little bit of irony there. Go ahead.
African slaves had only one comfort. They still gathered together to follow ancient African customs and to listen as African priests held ancient
Religious ceremonies. Mm-hmm.
The planters who saw these religious ceremonies thought that the Africans were just dancing and singing. But while they danced and sang, the slaves were listening to their priests tell about the revolutions in France and in America, the revolutions that set men free. And while they danced, the slaves planned a rebellion.
That's a simple word, but go ahead. That's called a power education, right? So,
On August 20th, 1791, 3 years after the storming of Bastille in France, the slaves broke out of their fields and their quarters. They set fire to every planter's mansion. They killed every planter they could find. They roamed across St. Dominic, wrecking the fields where they had worked for so long.
So this happened, is the French, the revolution or the changes in French began to spread over to the colonized area, right? So it is one of them. Making sense to you? Unfortunately, Napoleon come around facing this kind of spreading, right? So try to quell the uprising. So that's where it is. So go ahead.
One African, Toussaint Louverture, I have no idea what it says.
Overture? I have no idea. Overture, yeah.
Watched the bands of slaves with worry.
Do you want to learn French after that? Oh, okay.
I don't want to learn French.
Yeah, certain people like it. Yeah, I like French. It's a beautiful
I like French bread.
language. Oh, okay. Mhm.
He saw no strategy, no attempt to make St. Dominic free, just revenge.
Wow.
Toussaint, I guess that's what it says, had earned his freedom a few years before. Now he helped the family of his old master to escape and then began to gather his own band of soldiers around him. Unlike most slaves, Toussaint had learned to read French. He knew a little bit about how armies should be run. He taught his men how to fight properly together. Meanwhile, Spain had declared war on Napoleon. When Spanish soldiers came to St. Dominic to help drive the rest of the French off the island, Toussaint joined them. Soon he commanded 4,000 men. Another ex-slave, Jean
Joaquin, Joaquin. I want myself. Nice. No idea. That's the
Became his
lieutenant. Not Naomi. Can you read on the rest?
How do you pronounce? Is that your pronunciation right?
Toussaint.
Toussaint.
Yeah.
But Toussaint wasn't really an ally of Spain.
Ally.
Oh my goodness. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay. It's okay.
Ally.
Mhm.
He just wanted Saint Dominic to be free. He realized that the Spanish who now occupied the island saw nothing wrong with keeping slaves. Toussaint announced that he would no longer fight for Spain. He would once again swear loyalty to France of the Revolution, the France which said all men should be equal. The French, seeing a chance to get their island back, made Toussaint lieutenant governor of Saint Domingue. Toussaint turned his army against the Spanish and drove them out. Now he governed the island where he had once served as a slave. Saint Domingue was wrecked. Towns were burned down. Roads were dug up. The fields had returned to weeds and young trees. Houses lay in ruins. Toussaint announced that he would allow planters to return and that Africans must go back to work in the fields. But now, planters and Africans would work side by side. They would share the profits. No African would be whipped or punished. Slowly, Saint Domingue began to produce sugar and coffee again. But even though Toussaint
Domingo. I'm sorry. There's no ni.
I was saying it wrong the whole time.
Domingo. Yeah, Domingo.
Domingo?
Yeah, Domingo.
That sounds a lot better.
Domingo.
Saint Domingo.
There's people called Dominic. I have a friend named Dominic. Yeah. Domingo. Yes, Domingo. Yeah. That's okay.
Domingo.
Yeah, we all made mistakes in this case. Go ahead.
But even though Toussaint claimed to be a loyal Frenchman, Napoleon refused to accept his loyalty.
Ah,
The
trouble.
emperor hated Africans. He
No
could not
way.
bear to leave an African governor in charge of the island, which once poured so much money into the pockets of France. So Napoleon sent 20,000 men to reconquer Saint
That's a lot of
What is it again?
people.
Domingo.
Domingo. Hey.
He put his own brother-in-law, Charles Victor Manuel Leclerc.
Locker. No, I don't know. So
in charge of the invasion.
Intelligent.
On Feb-
Well, that's an interesting last name, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
On February 5th, 1802, Leclerc's army landed on the island. Toussaint's soldiers fought back, killing thousands of Frenchmen. But Toussaint could see that his men would never be able to keep on fighting against the enormous forces of France. Leclerc promised. Leclerc, yeah.
Leclerc. The thing is learn, right? Not le anymore. Leclerc. Leclerc. Yeah.
Leclerc promised Toussaint that he would retire to a plantation and turn the island over to Dessalines. So Toussaint agreed to surrender.
Who is Dessalines again? He's a former lieutenant, right? So, okay.
Instead of letting him settle peacefully down, Leclerc had him arrested at once. The liberators of Saint Domingue.
The Liberator.
Domingo was sent to a cold, distant prison in the French Alps. He died there less than a year later. The people of Saint Domingue, 400,000 ex-slaves, waited nervously to see what Leclerc would do next. They didn't know that Napoleon had already sent his soldiers. They were all to be put back into slavery. On a warm June morning, Leclerc was just finishing his breakfast when his aide appeared at the door of his quarters. "General," the aide gasped, "come quickly, come and see." Leclerc was puzzled. He followed the aide to the tent nearby where the French wounded lay, cared for by the army's doctor. Near the door, one of his officers lay on a cot. His face was drawn and yellow. His arms and legs shook. Yellow fever, the aide gasped.
Wow.
The French dreaded yellow fever, their name for malaria.
Malaria.
Malaria was spread by mosquitoes in the warm tropical islands. Malaria gave its victims high fevers, chills, sweats, and hallucination.
Hallucination.
Hallucinate.
Hallucination is means it can control my see vision, see different.
It's kind of like dreaming while you're awake.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good one. Okay.
Malaria can kill a whole army. In
Mhm.
4 weeks, 4,000 French soldiers were dead. Well, Gerlich himself grew ill, and his army shrank. Word got out among the ex-slaves of Saint Domingue, where they were all to be returned to slavery. At once, Toussaint's officers began plotting to begin the fight again. They would rather die. Wow. They would die rather than be enslaved once more. Leclerc sent desperate messages to France begging Napoleon to send more men. He died before any help could arrive. Instead, the English sailed into Saint Domingue's ports, ready to help drive the French away. Surviving French commanders were forced to surrender. Jean, how do you say that?
Jean
Jean Waku
Yeah.
Dessalines.
I don't know. No. Okay, Jane. That's a crazy one. Joaquin.
Declared the colony independent from France on January 1st, 1804. He renamed it Haiti.
Haiti.
There's no N. Haiti. And became its first ruler.
Jacques. That's Jacques. Yeah, that's Jacques. I think it actually is something about Jacob basically.
Yeah.
French for Jacob maybe. So yeah.
And then he pulled down the French flag and ripped its right center. The flag of Haiti would no longer contain any white, the color of French kings. Instead, a red and black flag would fly over the new country.
Wow. So, but I don't think we need to review. Basically, Haiti become the independent, right? So colony from French. Okay. Good luck to you guys for prepare for the test. This time, anybody failed, going to treat us either dinner or something very substantial. Yeah, buy a crab for me, something like that. Sure, so, yeah.
Looks like I'll have to save up my pennies.
Yeah. If you don't fail, I'll treat you a dinner. Yeah. Never know.
Make us some pho.
Yeah.